Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Ballabha Giridharadhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hare Bol. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hare Bol. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Panamankpurita Jigachariyasta Tarasarasi Samarita Vangre Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ki Jai Shri Gaunita Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai Jai Gaur Premanande. All glorious the Assembly of the Devotees. All glorious the Assembly of the Devotees. All glorious the Assembly of the Devotees. Glorious to Sri Guru and Garanga. Glorious to
Hare Krishna. So today is the first day of the series of very special Srimad Bhagavatam classes starting. We have with us His Holiness Ramai Swami Maharaj. Maharaj is from Alexandria, Egypt, but he grew up in Australia right from the time when he was a 4-year-old boy. And he studied music at Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, RMIT. And he came in contact with ISKCON devotees and he got a copy of the Back to Godhead magazine. When he read that magazine, immediately the content of that article in BTG spiritually awakened him, and he started going to meet the devotees and associate with them regularly. And after some time, he was very inspired by Krishna consciousness philosophy, and he became a full-time member, and was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in Melbourne in 1973. And His Holiness Ramai Swami Maharaj spent his formative years in ISKCON Brisbane and Melbourne temples. And later on he was heading the traveling bus party, Sankirtan bus party, and traveling to various cities and towns and sharing Krishna consciousness all over Australian continent. He took his sannyas vows in Mayapur Dham in 1982. And he is a very big contributor of the Australasia, through his kirtans and classes, and he is very much known for his friendly disposition with many, many devotees. And as we can say a lot about his leadership in ISKCON in various capacities. He began as a vice temple president in Auckland from 1974 to 1976. And then he continued his temple presidentship in Adelaide, Melbourne, and the New Govardhan farming community from 1976 to 1986. And again, he was traveling in bus party program from 1986 to 1990. And then he was made the temple president in Sydney from 1990 to 1992. And at the same time, he was given an even more major service as National Secretary for Australia and New Zealand. And in 1995, he became the member of the GBC. And then his zonal assignments started in Australia in various places like New Zealand, Papua, New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, New Caledonia, and Vanuatu, Indonesia, and Mayapur. And he also serves on the parallel lines of authority and organizational development committees with the aim of improving the organizational strength of the GBC and thus the whole movement. And Maharaj also has served 2 terms as executive committee in GBC. As you all know, in the entire body of GBC meets 2 times in a year, once in Srila Mayapur, one another time in different parts of India, and this time meetings are arranged here in Pune. So the GBC body has an executive committee of 3 members, and Maharaj has served in that executive committee twice, and in 2 terms he served as a chairman of the GBC also. So he has taken very major responsibilities in both leadership and in traveling Sankirtan Bus Party, and he is a great singer and speaker and a very great friend of devotees. And here we are today, blessed to have his association. And let us welcome him to Shri Shri Radha Vrindam Chandra Temple with one loud Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Holiness Ramai Swami Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,
Pune Yatra ki. Thank you very much, Guruji. Radhe Shyam. Today we've Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 14, Text 4. Prayo mumukshavaste Kechanaiva jvitotama Mumukshunam sahasreshu Kaschin muchyeta siddhyati Prayo mumukshavaste Kechanaiva jvitotama Mumukshunam sahasreshu Kaschin muchyeta siddhyati Prayo mumukshavaste Kechanaiva dvidotama Mumukshunam sahasreshu Kaschin muchyeta siddhyati. Someone else?
Mumukshavaste Kechanaiva dvijotama Mumukshunam sahasreshu Kaschin muchyeta siddhyate.
Prayo mumukshavasteşam Kechanaiva dvijotama Mumukshunam sahasreshu Kaschin muchyata siddhyati.
Praya, almost always. Mumukshava, persons interested in. Persons interested in liberation. Tesham, of them. Kechana, some. Eva, indeed. Dvija Uttama, O best of the Brahmanas. Mumukshunam, of those who desire to be liberated. Sahasreshu, in many thousands. Kaschit, someone. Muchyeta, may be actually liberated. Siddhyati, someone is perfect. Translation. O best of the Brahmanas, Sukadeva Goswami, out of many persons who follow religious principles, only a few desire liberation from the material world. Among many thousands who desire liberation, one may actually achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife and children. And among many thousands of such liberated persons, one who can understand the true meaning of liberation is very rare. Purport. There are 4 classes of men, namely karmis, jnanis, yogis and bhaktas. This statement pertains especially to karmis and jnanis. A karmi tries to be happy within this material world by changing from one body to another. His objective is bodily comfort, either in this planet or in another. When such a person becomes a jnani, however, he aspires for liberation from material bondage. Among many such persons who aspire for liberation, one may actually be liberated during his life. Such a person gives up his attachment for society, friendship, love, country, family, wife and children. Among many such persons who are in the vanaprastha stage, one may understand the value of becoming a sannyasi, completely accepting the renounced order of life. Praya mumukshavaste kechanaiva dvidotama mumukshunam sahasreshu kaschin muchyate siddhyate. O best of the Brahmanas, Sukadeva Goswami, out of many persons who follow religious principles, only a few desire liberation from the material world. Among many thousands who desire liberation, one may actually achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, friendship, love, country, home, wife and children. And among many thousands of such liberated persons, one who can understand the true meaning of liberation is very rare. So today we're reading from text 4, but previously there were other verses that without purport. I'll just read them. I think yesterday you did text 1. So text 2 was the demigods situated in the mode of goodness and great saints, cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment, hardly ever render pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Mukunda. Therefore, how could Vritrasura have become such a great devotee? In text 3, translation. In this material world there are as many living entities as atoms. Among these living entities, a very few are human beings, and among them, few are interested in following religious principles. So this section of the Bhagavatam deals with a very big story, of course, starting like in the reverse order, first telling the story of Vritrasura, the demon created from the yagya of Tvashta, after Tvashta's son Vishvakarma was killed by Lord Indra. So it's a very big story, starting with Vritrasura. Now here we're reading how Maharaj Parikshit is asking Sukadeva Goswami that how is it that Vritrasura had the mentality of a devotee? What is his story? And it's mentioned here that generally the asuras are consumed by the modes of passion and ignorance. So, but someone who is a devotee, he is above the modes of passion and ignorance. He is above even the mode of goodness, as mentioned here, that one can elevate themselves. Prabhupada talks about the Varna and Ashrama system here in regard to this verse, and he says specifically this verse pertains to the karmis and the jnanis. So generally the Varna Ashram system in the Vedic culture is there for elevating human beings to the higher platform. So, but in the karmi stage, as Prabhupada explains, that people are very much attached to the material comforts. And so they're very much consumed by passion and of course ignorance. In the Kali Yuga, we see so much passion. Everyone endeavoring very, very hard to get these material comforts, to make a lot of money. We know that for many people, money is the God. If I can get money is the honey, and money is the God. So practically they are worshipping like that, and their goal is like that. And impelled by the mode of passion, they work very hard. I remember I was walking with Srila Prabhupada one time in the botanical gardens, and just nearby was the motor freeway. And early in the morning, we were going like 6 o'clock in the morning, and we were walking, and Prabhupada saw how many cars were zooming to go to the work even early in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. So he commented, he said, he just turned and he looked at us, he said, these karmis, they are working so hard. Very early in the morning, they have to go to the work. And then late in the night, one devotee was telling me, he's from, where is he from? He's from Sydney, but he's from India. And he's from Bangalore. And he was telling me that although he misses being in the Bangalore and being with the family and the friends and being in the motherland of India, still he prefers the work in Sydney more, because at least in the Sydney they are working just 9 to 5 or 6 o'clock. But he said in Bangalore I was working early in the morning, and of course there's so much traffic jam in the Bangalore that just to go to the work it takes you 2 hours, depending on what time you go. Sometimes it can take, if it's traffic jam, it's 3 hours. So just to go to the work takes so many hours, and then you go to the work and you have to work very hard, sometimes 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then go home again traffic jam, and then by the time you go home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So he said the work is very hard. So at least in the other country, he said, here is more easy. So I prefer work here, but home there. So, but more or less around the world, and we see this, people are driven by this passion and this great desire to acquire more and more and more. I read a survey many years ago. Some company did some survey over many countries of the world, interviewing the rich people of the world and asking them that you have so much money, you have everything, and what else do you want? And the common reply was, I want more money. I want more money. And then I read another survey where in the family, the most common cause of argument, number one cause of the argument is what? Who can guess? What are the husband and wife arguing? What is the most common? Money. So money has become everything. And we find that because of mode of passion especially, the greed has become very strong, and more strong and more strong. The greed principle is very, very strong. They can never have enough. They have to get very quickly, more and more and more. They're driven. Now, Prabhupada actually told us, I heard one class where he said, actually, civilized man should just work in a more mode of goodness way. Don't work overly hard. You've got no time for anything else. We think we need this, and when we get that still, and often he gave it, when the man with $100, now he wants 1,000, when he has 1,000, then he wants 1 million, when he has 1 million, he wants 10 million. So when is enough? It is because of the mode of passion, we're driven more and more to, actually one can never be satisfied, and then arguing, trying to attain goals very, very hard. So unfortunately in the Kali Yuga this is increasing, and because of this mode of passion, especially mode of ignorance also, there is a lot of fighting. There's the greed principle is there, I have this money, but then always afraid, who is going to take my money, and then fighting over the money and competing with the others, trying to get ahead. I always remember many years ago I read one article about Lee Iacocca, who was formerly the CEO of Chrysler, and they interviewed him after he retired. So then the question was asked that, what advice do you have for the upcoming executives of the big company? What advice can you give? And he said that, well, one thing he said that, be careful who you tread on the way up, because if you're going to go down, they will kick you in the head. That was his advice. And so people, they're used to, in the competition is very savage. You will do anything to get ahead of the other person. So sometimes people, they make up stories about other people just to get them removed, and their fighting is going on. So fighting at the work, and fighting in the home, and fighting, and so this greed principle is very unpleasant, very, very unpleasant atmosphere. And here, Bhogeshwara, this is that verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Bhogeshwara prashaktanam tayapachachetasam vyavyasam buddhi, what is that, samadhuna vidiyate. Prabhupada actually mentions in one of the purports here that the minds of those who are too attached to the sense enjoyment and the material opulence, bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of the devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. And then he comments, as long as one is very much attached to the material enjoyment, one cannot concentrate his mind on the subject matter of the devotional service. So this is very, very important to understand this point. As devotees, we have to be very mindful of this point. Now here it is mentioned, is the Bhagavatam here? Where did the Bhagavatam? Yeah, the book. I just reading from here and I lost my... Oh, okay. So in this verse today, what is the verse? 14. Yeah. Now, here it is mentioned about... now, here, as I said in the beginning, there's mention about the story of Vritasura. Very big story, as I mentioned. There is like the reverse story. How did Parikshit Maharaj is asking how he got the mentality of devotee. So then Sukadeva Goswami will read that the whole story. He'll start to tell the story of Vritasura, how formerly he was Maharaj Chitraketu. And Maharaj Chitraketu was a great king, but he, even though he married, he couldn't have any children. So one after the other, he married so many different wives, still couldn't have any children. One time he was visited by the sage Angira Muni, and he begged the sage to bless him to be able to have a child. So Angira, he blessed him, yes, you will have a child, but the child will be the cause of the happiness, both happiness but also lamentation. But nevertheless, Maharaj Chitraketu was very, very happy that at least he would have a son. And so the son was born, and both he and his wife were very, very happy. And so they were the happy years in the beginning. But it is the story, as the story is told, that the co-wives of the king, he had so many wives, they were becoming a little jealous that he was giving so much attention to that son and so much attention to his first queen and not so much attention to them anymore. They felt very threatened. They would be kept to the side. And so they talked with each other, and they plotted in such a very bad way that we have to kill this child. We have to kill. You see, when the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance is strong, what one is capable of doing, that to kill the baby. And they hatched the plan that they will poison the child. So that was they poisoned the child, and the child died. And so, of course, Maharaj Chitraketu was beside himself, his wife beside herself. And so at that time, after that was the lamentation. So actually Angira Muni predicted like that. The child will be the cause of the happiness, but a cause of the lamentation as well. So Angira Muni came again, but this time he brought a Narad Muni. And Narad Muni, he wanted Narad Muni to give some instruction to Maharaj Chitraketu about the Jukta Vairagya, becoming detached from a worldly enjoyment and becoming fixed in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, this Prabhupada was explaining in that particular section of the Bhagavatam that Maharaj Chitraketu was just right at that point. Before, when he was living as the king and he had the son, he was very much, although he was a very pious king, very advanced he had some spiritual advancement, but he was very much absorbed in worldly activity and very much attached to his new son. But then when the son passed away, there was grief then. So Prabhupada explains that Angira Muni took the opportunity to bring Narad Muni so he could preach to him about detachment and devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God. And he said, when one is in a position like that, when there is suffering, when one is thinking I am enjoying, then there's not that much inclination or desire to want to take up devotional service, as I quoted that Bhogeshwara Prashaktanam. That when one is too absorbed, the resolute determination for engaging in devotional service cannot actually take place. One's mind is too absorbed in the material things. You don't have time to do anything. I see sometimes, I stay even at the houses of our Grihasta devotees, and these are Grihastas, devotees. And I see how little time they have, especially if they've got the young children, early in the morning to the work. And these days everything is so expensive, both husband and wife have to work, and sometimes they have to bring someone to look after the children because they both have to work to get the money, because everything is so expensive here in India. Everything is becoming so expensive. I remember when we were first coming to India, everything was very cheap, but now India has become expensive. That's like so many places in the world, so expensive. You need both husband and wife have to work. So it's very difficult. And then the children have to go to the school, and then coming back from the school, and so little time. And what to speak of the materialists? Yet the Grihastas, they are devotees. They are chanting, they are doing devotional activities. I'm very much in wonder sometimes how they can engage in these spiritual activities because they're so busy. But because they're good devotees, Grihasta devotees, they do it. And they come to the temple. It's a very amazing thing. But the materialists, they're so absorbed in their activity. And in the Bhagavatam, there's one an example given. For the materialistic person, the spiritual life is like having a dot on the horizon. You know, sometimes you look on the horizon and you're just looking and looking, and you may, when you're looking, you may see a dot somewhere. This is like the spiritual life for the materialist. No, Hare Krishna, what is that? Spiritual life, what is that? What is spiritual? People don't know. Unfortunately, these days, sometimes I'm traveling and people stop me. Who are you? What are you? Are you like a Buddhist monk? or something like that, and I say, no, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. And sometimes they don't even know what is Hare Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna devotee, what is the Hare Krishna devotee? So I understand we have to do a lot more preaching in the world. I remember in the beginning days, everyone, practically because we were going on so many places, Harinam, and doing so many, practically everyone knew Hare Krishna devotee. As soon as you were seen somewhere, yeah, Hare Krishna devotee. But now I'm finding, actually, that I'm traveling in so many places. Even you say I'm Hare Krishna, what is that? What is Hare Krishna devotee? So I'm thinking that we have to do a lot more activity for spreading the Krishna consciousness. Some people know, oh, here's a Buddhist monk. I'm the Buddhist monk. No, I'm not Buddhist monk. I'm Hare Krishna devotee. But the materialist being so absorbed in in so many activities, they cannot have a moment for the spiritual life. This is very, very unfortunate. This is their mentality. They're caught up by the modes of passion and ignorance, and caught up by their own desires. They become subservient. They become the slaves of all these things. They are thinking they are controlling. There's the problem. They are thinking, I'm controlling. I want to do this and but actually you are driven by your own desire, your mode of passion and ignorance. You're being driven to these things, and imperceptibly almost, although you have a strong desire, imperceptibly it goes on more and more and more. And practically the whole life, you cannot know what is the spiritual life, what to speak of becoming. And Prabhupada makes this point here about there are many, there's so few, in the previous verses it was mentioned, there's so many species of life, so many atoms in the world, so many species of life. Hardly out of those species of life, hardly anything is the human. Out of those humans, mainly they are the karmis. Some may go to the jnani stage, and even the jnanis who are endeavoring for the liberation, who is becoming the devotee. Very, very rare thing. So we're very fortunate, actually, and I count myself as one of the most fortunate, that we are somehow, by the mercy of Prabhupada, by the mercy of Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Sri Radha Krishna, we have come to the position of devotional service. A very, very rare thing. So we should value it. We should be very grateful that we've had this opportunity, because you see in the world, now most people, they don't know anything about the spiritual life. They're just absorbed. And fighting we know. We don't need to talk. So much war is going on more and more. Just there's so little thing they fight. The littlest thing they are fighting. I remember even in the temple sometimes this goes on, the fighting. I remember one time I was the temple president. He said I was the temple president one time in the Melbourne temple. And we had some new bhakta. He came storming into the office and he said, that's it. I'm leaving the Krishna consciousness. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, what's the problem? He said, every day I go to the prasadam and there's one devotee he's the server, and I just ask for one extra chapati and one pakora. He doesn't give. And every day, same thing. So that's it. I'm leaving the Krishna consciousness. This is not good. You're not good organization. I said, no, please. I'll just remain calm. I'll make all adjustment. I'll personally make sure that you get extra. You get more than just one pakora. You get so many pakoras and so many chapatis. So he agreed to stay. He calmed down. He agreed to stay. So just the slightest thing, even amongst devotees. And actually in the Nectar Devotion is mentioned that even for pure devotees to live, especially in the Kali Yuga, is very, very difficult. Even for pure devotees. Of course they are pure devotees, they're absorbed in Krishna, but there's so many difficulties living in there. Maybe you're in a country where there's war going on, just like in Israel now they're fighting with the Hamas, and many leaders are asking how are the devotees there in Israel. With the devotees in Israel. So maybe you're a devotee living. So there's so many disturbances. I remember when the devotees first went to, was it Iran, I think, Parivajikacharya Maharaj, and who was that other one? Two of them. Paramahansa. Yeah, Paramahansa. They went, and it was in Prabhupada's time, and they went there, and then they sent a report to Prabhupada. And they said it's very difficult here because the people are very angry. I think at that time there was some conflict, Iran and Iraq or something like that. They're very angry. And Prabhupada wrote back, I remember this because he wrote back and he said, yes, it's very difficult to preach when people are too angry. When people are too angry, it's very difficult to preach. He said, therefore, devotees, they are not attached to any particular, just go where there's more favorable. I always noted that. He said, the devotees can go anywhere. If it is not at that particular time, they're too angry, they're fighting, killing each other. What, are you going to stand in the middle? They're fighting the gun. Oh, wait a minute, you have to listen to me about Krishna. You will get also the bullet in the head. So therefore, the devotee has to be very intelligent. Has to be very mindful of the situation. So Prabhupada said that don't be attached. You can go so many places in the world that the preacher can go. So go other place. That place at the moment, maybe later you can come back, but at the moment it's not so good. You go other place. So this is the position of a devotee. Very, very rare and a good opportunity, and we should always be very, very grateful. So this is what is meant. Now, Prabhupada talks, as I said, about the Varnashram, generally in the Vedic culture, to become to the point of liberation. One follows the Varna and the Ashrama. Here, Prabhupada talks about Ashrama, and he talks especially about the Vanaprastha and Sannyas. Generally, when one comes in the Kami stage, maybe if you're following Varnashrama, you'll go the Brahmachari, you become Grihastha. That's a nice situation. Today there's no Grihastha, there are Grihamedi in the material world. But if one follows Varnashrama, then you'll come Grihastha. And then when you become more maybe the Jnani, you want to searching for the liberation, this is a very more rare person, becomes Vanaprastha, becomes detached. And Prabhupada talks about this in the purport. You become, how does he say it here? Such a person gives up attachment for society, friendship, love, country, family, wife and children. Then this is a Vanaprastha. You go away from each other and all these things, you become detached. When you become even more and more detached, and then the sannyas, complete renunciation, you're becoming very, very serious about liberation, the mukti. Of course, there's different stages of mukti. There's the mukti, the sayujya mukti of the Mayavadis or the impersonalists, more the impersonalists. This is sayujya mukti, not very much appreciated by the Vaishnavas. We're not very much trying to go to Sayujya. But as mentioned now, interesting today also is the appearance of Madhvacharya, and also is now they asked me to speak a little bit about this. Also is today's the anniversary of the appearance of Madhvacharya and the anniversary of the Lord Ramchandra Vijay Utsava, isn't it? Vijay Utsava, the conquering of Lord Ram conquering over Lanka, isn't it? And that place there where he went, I've been a few times to Rameshwaram, and you can go to the Setu Band and the Dhanuskoti in that area. I went there, I went for bathing there, and then you go there. And then he went there. But now I've read that in that Lord Ramchandra, he heard from Hanuman. When Hanuman went to Lanka, he discovered Sita. And then discovering Sita, I'm just summarizing here, of course the Ramayana is a big story, but he came back again to Lord Ram, and he informed Lord Ram that Sita is there. So at that time, Lord Ram, he had a festival. And hearing the news, I've heard this. I've heard different versions of this Ram Utsava, where it's one version I've heard that when actually Ram conquered Ravana and conquered Lanka, that's the Ram Utsava. But another one is actually he just heard from Hanuman that Sita was there, and then he made a festival, and then he made the plans for conquering over Lanka. So this is a little bit about, and interestingly enough, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita I was looking, that Lord Chaitanya, when he was in Jagannath Puri, he very much celebrated this festival. He celebrated with his devotees Janmashtami. He would dress the devotees as gopis sometimes. He would celebrate Balaram appearance, Janmashtami, Radhastami, and he would celebrate also here, as mentioned in the Madhya Lila, that Lord Chaitanya would celebrate this Ram Utsava, this festival, and he would dress the devotees as monkey warriors. He dressed them up as monkey soldiers, as mentioned here. Hanumavesha Prabhu Vriksha Sakalam. Displaying the emotions of Hanuman, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took up a large tree branch and mounting the walls of the Lanka fort began to dismantle. So he's enacting this drama. In the ecstasy of Hanuman, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu angrily said, "Where is that rascal Ravana? He has kidnapped the universal mother Sita. Now I shall kill him and his whole family." So everyone became very astonished to see Lord Chaitanya display this emotional ecstasy, and everyone began to chant, all glories to Lord Ramchandra, all glories to Hanuman, all glories to Sita Devi." So they began to chant like that. So today is the anniversary of this, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, there's a good description in also Madhya Lila in regard to the appearance of Madhvacharya. Prabhupada gives a long purport and he summarizes. There's a lot of works detailing the life of Srila Madhvacharya, but Prabhupada summarizes this in a purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So interestingly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he visited Udupi and he got into big discussion. He saw the deity there, Gopal, and with holding the food in one hand and the stick in the other hand. And I'll tell a little bit about that story. But he got into discussion with the followers of Madhvacharya, and he very much detected that there was a little bit of pride there. And he was talking to one of the chief sannyasis there. And it was a nice discussion where he asked the chief of the sannyasis there, Hare Krishna, yes, still there, that what is the philosophy or what is the teaching in your sampradaya? So of course Lord Chaitanya very much was very fond of the Madhvacharya and the teaching of Madhvacharya, but he wanted to just point out some aspects. Now it's also mentioned here that Jiva Goswami in his writings discovered some portion in one of the writings of Madhvacharya, where Madhvacharya actually describes a little bit about Achincha Bheda Bheda Tattva, the philosophy later on established by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But we'll talk more about that. But interestingly enough, when Lord Chaitanya was speaking to this sannyasi, the sannyasi began to describe the teachings, and especially he mentioned following Varnashrama. And why I bring this up, because it's related to this purport today about Varnashrama. And he started talking about by following Varnashrama, one can elevate very gradually and then come to the point of detachment and even to the point of the liberation. And one can attain the different forms of liberation, especially for the Vaishnavas. There's the 4 forms of liberation. And the Sarupya Siddhi and Samipya Siddhi and Salokya Siddhi and Shashti Siddhi. You can attain the same form as the Lord. You can attain the same opulences. You become a very close associate of the Lord. Salokya Siddhi is live on the same planet of the Lord. So he began to describe in this way, when one follows this system of Varnashram, then one can achieve this type of mukti and live in the Vaikuntha as in one of these positions. And this is the supreme perfection. This is the essence of the teaching of Madhvacharya. And so Lord Chaitanya, he actually responded, Prabhu Kahi, he was very respectful, Kahi Shravana Kirtan. He began to describe the process of chanting, hearing and chanting. He says, according to the verdict of the Shastras, the process of hearing and chanting is the best means to attain love of God. And he quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Shmaranam Parasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. And so he quoted this, the process entails hearing and chanting, and he was giving many references from the Shastra in regard to what is the best means. And finally, he said that actually all these other things, if one doesn't attain the position of hearing and chanting and following these principles, then one should actually, of course, follow these regulations given in the Varnashram system, and then maybe one can come to the path of the mukti. But the highest position, even beyond the mukti, is coming to the hearing and chanting, become a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And finally he quoted, Savanamam parityagya, mamekam saranam vraja, ham tam sava papebhyo, moksha shami masocha. He said, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. So he was able to actually convince these followers of this, and this sannyasi agreed with Lord Chaitanya. So he influenced them to have a kirtan, to engage in the kirtan. So I just thought I'd tell this story of Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada, of course, he tells a little bit of the birth, appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says that, not Lord Chaitanya, of Madhvacharya. And he says here, Madhvacharya appeared in the AD 1238. And when he was born, I've been to Udupi a few times. Who's been to Udupi? Anyone? Been to Udupi? Very good. Wonderful to go there, and you can go to the place of the birth of Madhvacharya. But at the birth, he was in the Brahmin family, he was born, and he was known as Vasudeva. And he was it is said he was incarnation of the god Vayu. And previously, he's like the third incarnation. Previously, he was Hanuman, and then Bhimsena, and now he was coming at Madhva. And he was known as Vasudeva, and he was very, very strong, and he was very intelligent. And it's mentioned here that he could just jump from one place to the other. Sometimes his mother was concerned, she didn't see him, and she would call his name, he would be far away, but in one jump, all of a sudden he would be there right in front of her. She was very astonished. Where you have come? Oh, from so far away. He just jumped there. He could jump a long way. There's a story later on I read in another book of Madhvacharya where he was going to the Himalayas to see Srila Vyasadeva. And his companion was Satyatirtha. And he was traveling, and in those days there was no road, the Badrinath. Now you can go by road there, but in those days there was no road, just a pathway. And you have to travel by going by different, over the rocks and so many things. And so at one stage, Madhvacharya was just jumping one rock to the other rock to the other rock. And Satyatirtha was trying to keep up. And then at one point he looked around and said, you will not be able to completely follow me now. There's too many big rocks. Just go back. Go back again. And so he said, no, I want to serve you. I have to go. Let me try to come. So then, all right. But then he couldn't go. He was falling behind. It was too difficult. So it is mentioned there in this story that Madhvacharya just looked around at him and he waved his hand, and a wind gust was created, and the wind carried him right back to Udupi. so Satyatirtha was flung back by Madhvacharya. So he was so strong. Madhvacharya was so strong. He could just leap, and even from the childhood he could do like that. And he could do the miracles. One time it is mentioned here by Prabhupada that his father got into some debt, and he was in big anxiety how he would pay the debt. And Madhvacharya just took some tamarind seeds, held them in his hand, and he closed his hand very tight. He opened, and there were some gold coins there. More than enough to pay the father's debt. So he could do the miracles just like that. So Prabhupada tells many stories here. There was one Manimana, one Asura, who was living nearby in the form of the snake. And with the toe of his left foot, he just went to that snake and put his toe of the left foot on the snake and immediately killed that Asura. So it is said here he took the initiation at the age of 5, but Prabhupada gives this account. And although his father didn't agree, he accepted sannyas at the age of 12. And at that time he received the name Purna Pragya Tirtha. So there's a long story of Madhvacharya. We haven't got so much time this morning to tell, but just some incidents and in regard to, he had a dream of the Gopal Krishna. He had a dream that the deity would come to him, and the next day when he was in Udupi, because as I said, he went to, at some point he went to visit Srila Vyasadeva, and he explained his idea of Bhagavad Gita commentary to him, and so he received a lot of instruction from Srila Vyasadeva, and then he came back again to Udupi. And then at some point he used to take the bath in the ocean, and some boat was on the way to the Dwarka and was getting in the trouble from the rough ocean. And so he signaled to them how they could go in a more safe area, and the ship was saved. And so the captain was very thankful and wanted to give him some gift. And Madhvacharya said, I don't need anything, but maybe if you have some chandan. So he gave a big block of chandan, and it is said that even 30 men couldn't lift it was so heavy, but he himself lifted it. And then as he was lifting it, broke apart, and inside, of course, there was the deity of Gopal, with a stick and holding the food in one and the other hand. And so that deity, he was installed in Udupi. When you go Udupi, of course, you can see this beautiful deity. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there and he danced. When Lord Chaitanya went there, the followers of Madhvacharya thought he was a Mayavadi sannyasi just by his look. But then when they saw him chanting and dancing, he must be Vaishnava. So then they became more in his association. And then they had that conversation later where they very much appreciated the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Madhvacharya was very wonderful. One time, so I think it was Satyatirtha, was attacked by a tiger, and Madhvacharya himself just jumped in and he separated the tiger, threw the tiger away. He was so strong. And there's another story here told by Prabhupada about how there was one big famous wrestler that was supposedly as strong as 30 men, and he defeated all others. And he wanted to challenge. He heard how Madhvacharya was big and strong. He wanted to challenge him, but Madhvacharya was not interested. But he was pushing on that wrestler. He was pushing. So he said, "All right, if you want to, but first of all, I will put my toe on the ground, and if you can, you're so strong. If you can lift my toe, then I will I will admit defeat." And so, with all his strength, he couldn't lift even the toe of Madhvacharya from the ground. So these are some stories here told by Prabhupada. So today is the anniversary of the appearance of Madhvacharya. So at 1238 he appeared, and I believe he lived for like 80 years, if I'm not mistaken. He lived like around 80 years old. He lived like that. He wrote many works. So there's a big story of Madhvacharya. You can read about that yourselves. And he lived a long time. There's some mentioned that in the Krishna Leela, he's a Manjari, known as a Madhavi Manjari. I'm not exactly 100% sure about that, but there's some mention that he is actually a Manjari. Now finally going back, I'll just end here with going back to Maharaj Chitraketu, how he became Vritrasura. He was preached to by Narad Muni, and Narad Muni asked him to worship Lord Sankarshan. So I'm just finishing off with this story. And so he worshipped Lord Sankarshan. Narad Muni actually gave him a wonderful mantra. Om Namastubhyam Bhagavate Vasudeva Dhimahi. It was like a Gayatri mantra. Dhimahi Pradumna Nanirudaya Nama Sankashanaya Cha Namo Vijnana Matraya Paramananda Murtaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Nivrita Dvaita Drishtaye. This is a mantra that Narad Muni gave him. You chant this mantra, you follow everything very nicely, and very soon you'll get the darshan of Lord Sankarshan. So you'll see when we read through this section of the Bhagavatam in the next section also, we read how he has the darshan. He becomes very much advanced devotee, pure devotee. And he actually was awarded, as a side reward, became the king of the Vidyadharas. And he was flying overhead, and he saw Lord Shiva sitting with Parvati on his lap, surrounded by the sages. And he just was laughing to himself how Lord Shiva can be like that, with his wife on his lap giving instruction to the sages. And so he just has made some comment. So this is a long story. And then Parvati got a bit offended. She cursed him. But he accepted the curse, and that's how he became the Vritrasura. Later on, he was killed by Lord Indra. This is a very wonderful story, that how Vritrasura, and when you read this story, there's some actual, Indra was informed that actually he's devotee. And so he was reluctant to fight him when he found that, and but he did his duty. And Vritrasura, of course, he was previously Maharaj Chitraketu, but he was fighting. So at one point, just before he was about to be killed, Vritrasura was about to be killed, he began to instruct King Indra about devotional service and detachment to the world. And this is going on right in the battlefield. They stopped, and then there was a conversation. There was a going back and forth between Indra and Vritrasura about the benefits of devotional service, right on the battlefield. A very amazing story. And so then, of course, Indra did his duty, and he was able to separate the head of Vritrasura. And actually, it's mentioned there that the spark was seen coming from the body of Vritrasura, and it is described there that he went back home, back to Godhead. He attained the lotus feet of Lord Sankarshan in the Vaikuntha. So this is told later on. So it's a very big story, very wonderful story. So I've told a little bit. I tried to cover all the different subject matters. I hope I was all right. So thank you very much, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Is there time? I think they have to go for the breakfast. All right, we'll do one question. Okay. Anyone has one question or one comment? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Maharaj, you very kindly started describing also about the Varnashram system. And we note that Srila Prabhupada personally established the Brahmachari ashram, the Sannyasa ashram, and for his young disciples, he also asked them to get into household and grahastha ashram. In the recent years, we keep hearing this debate. It's a debate. It's become sort of a debate whether Varnashram is needed, not needed, bhakti versus Varnashram, sort of a debate. Maharaj, what about the paradigm of Varnashram and bhakti? And what would your thoughts be? Especially given the context you talk about householders, they struggle so much through the process of life.
You know, they both run synonymous with each other. They're not exclusive of each other by following in the Varnashram system. And Prabhupada did say he wanted to introduce more of this system later in his life. He said like that. The main thing for the followers of Lord Chaitanya, and as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I read the excerpt from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was talking to the Madhvacharya leader there, the sannyasi there, about what is higher even than Varnashram principles. And Varnashram is there. So on as we're advancing, we need to follow the regulations of the Shastras. And especially in the beginning, Prabhupada introduced, as you said, the different ashrams. There was not so much concentration on the varnas as such, but the ashrams were there and to suit the nature of the different devotees. So then we were following like that, but very much in the forefront was the Shravanam, Kirtanam and Padasevanam, these things. As mentioned by Lord Chaitanya, he says in more than one place, in the discussion with Ramananda Roy also, he said, go higher, and go higher. The highest is, Krishna Prem. And the whole, you can read that section in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one has to know what is the goal, and you have to keep the goal in the front. But there's ultimate goal and there's interim goals. So everything is laid out there very nicely in the Shastras. The interim goals is you have to follow what is your nature, what is best for you to make advancement. So you can follow interim things. But the topmost goal is to come to the level of the Krishna Prem as given here by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. I think I'm ending here because it is already late. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Time for prasadam. Hare Krishna.